We are now joined by Keith Engel, CEO of the South African Institute for Tax Professionals. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Keith, it's been 90 minutes since Budget 2016 was read, and the Rand has weakened already. What does that say about Budget 2016?
Well, it hasn't weakened that much, but it doesn't say something good. But it's hard to tell at this stage. You don't know what's affecting the Rand. But certainly the markets weren't excited about the speech. So the real question was, if it did weaken for a reason, it might be because the fear there's just no growth.
Is it just a matter of treading water, perhaps, instead of expecting something dramatic?
Yeah, well, clearly, I think a lot of us are happy because it did tread water. We didn't get major tax increases. So a lot of us are personally happy, but the markets probably said, is there really enough going on here? And really, again, they keep asking for a growth story, which really the minister can't deliver.
There was nothing really substantial with regard to growth. Why do you think that it was?
I personally think the problem is for the minister, he doesn't know how to deliver that. I mean, how can he? He only controls the budget. So he doesn't control the implementation, and the implementation is really what the problem is in this government. So even if you put the money in the right place, well, we believe it'll be spent properly.
Isn't he also caught with the NDP, the National Development Program, which actually has some infrastructure projects that one could actually argue, as one political economist has done, are actual white elephants? And he's stuck with that as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he actually raised a good point, because when you take a look at his budget's about the procurement orders. So the same thing that's going to give him the growth is going to give him problems in procurement, and you can see the minister's view is procurement is corruption. So how can you get the growth if the thing that's going to feed it is something that you fear is corrupt?
In terms of tax, did we meet expectations?
I think a lot of us were relieved. I said that before. I mean, I thought personally that if personal income tax rates would go up at least by 1%, possibly up to 45.
I was convinced that we were going to be paying more personal tax.
Yeah, now you are. He just hit it rather well. So he just took it in inflation.
It's a bit of bracket creep, is it?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely the bracket creep. So you had inflation. You should have gotten relief for personal bracket creep of 13.6 or so billion. And he gave you about half of that. So there was a lot of hidden increase, but it's less visible. And I think a lot of things you can see in this budget, and this is typical of what the minister has always done, he likes to hide his tax increases. So he's pushing them in sin taxes. We can't have sugar anymore, no cakes. He's going after alcohol again a little bit. He was thinking about cigarettes. He's going after environment. He's going after the sinners, but he doesn't want to hit the middle class directly.
And he doesn't want to hit the VAT either, surely, because it's an election year. But what about next year? Well,
he actually says that in the budget, if you look in the budget review, he's got little warnings about next year. So he says, by the way, next year, it's all back on the table. So breathe a sigh of relief this year. Next year, you don't know. But he threw in VAT as well as personal income tax. I was surprised to see he actually threw in the VAT. And one of the things I think that's in this budget that has come through is the influence of Judge Dennis Davis. Very clearly, he's being listened to. On the amnesty for people with money offshore, he was clearly listened to. Capital gains was increased. That was clearly Davis. There was some attacks on estate duty, very subtle ones, but again, you can see Davis's influence.
But the 2017 regulations internationally are going to really impact on those people who have money parked away abroad illegally.
Yeah, and that was something very exciting. I think a number of people were pushing because they were very worried about the 2017. And this is a free way of getting money, right? Have everybody come forward, make a confession, give me some money, right? It's a little bit like a lottery for rich people.
If you're looking at the lower to middle income person in South Africa, what does Budget 2016 mean to them?
Well, it depends. They tried to soften some of the blows for the low income by giving a little bit more PIT relief at the bottom, especially in the thresholds. You'll have to tell me whether it met the charge.
Well, it's well under official inflation anyhow, so that's bad enough.
Yeah, and then there was social grants for the very poor, so that was there. Education money is going to be pushed in that direction. That should probably help the low income a little bit. You could see he was trying to help the low income as much as he can, but fuel levies going up, other little things.
My concern is that you're increasing social grants so minimally, but your increase on your fuel levies is obviously going to impact on increases on food, on increases on the basic necessities, which ordinary South African consumers from the lower to the middle income are going to feel.
Yeah.
Do you think they would be happy with this budget?
It's hard to see. I mean, because some of it's feeding through. You see, the key thing that he likes to do is he likes to hide his increases. But it does affect people when you do the fuel levy directly, because people go to and from work every day.
Yeah.
And you'll see people, a typical person, worker, 200, maybe 250 a day, and you see that fuel bill going from 50 to 60 or 60 to 70. That really hits them in a way that it doesn't hit us. So I'm not sure if government is as sensitive to that. But again, it's modest. We'll see.
What about the whole, corporate tax, which in this country used to be 45%, now 28%, on the grounds that it would encourage foreign direct investment, which never came.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lovely juicy plum to pick.
Yeah.
Go up to 30 or 32.
Well, they could. I thought they were going to do a corporate income tax surcharge.
I also thought they were going to increase the corporate income.
The thing is that government under the Trevor Manuel era established the neoclassical model, which I'm sure you love very much. And in that model, I mean, it was very clear that corporate rates are supposed to ease their way down. So they're trying to keep them that way. And the arguments from all the big firms is that even though you don't have foreign investment now, if you increase those rates, it'll be far worse, whether you believe that is something else.
Reaganomics. Thatcherism.
Yes. All right, there you go.
Keith, in conclusion,
Yeah.
do you think Budget 2016 was a good budget for South Africa?
I don't know. We'll have to really see with the RAND and the credibility. And I think one of the things you can see there, and if you look, and he didn't really describe it much in his budget speech, is the real question is, are we going to keep the government from not growing too much? Now, if you look at the chapter in the budget on the issue of expenditure, what they're really talking about here is they're really talking about serious cuts on the employment side. And there's sort of an implicit threat that if the unions get what they want, we're going to cut more staff. So he's very mindful of that, and I think that's what's going to break our back, whether we can keep the wages or keep the settlement of the public wage bill under control. If we can't, then we're going to be
Terry,
done.
your thoughts? Was Budget 2016 a good one for South Africa?
As I've said, I think it's marking time, treading water, whatever you want to say. I don't think it was good. I don't think it was bad. I think it's very much the same. And when you
A rehashing of the old.
The rehashing of the old, and we've been caught in the same, I hate that word, paradigm, but since 1996 we've been caught in that, the whole concept of trickle-down economics, which has never worked anywhere. And what you actually needed here, we had a government, which under Trevor Manuel and others, actually lowered tariff barriers beyond what GATT or the World Trade Organization even wanted. We never really looked, we never had a proper comprehensive industrial trade policy. We didn't integrate agriculture. We had very little foresight and even less planning. And I think nothing has changed.
So it really is a sense of deja vu happening here.
Well, as the unions say, a luta continua.